Hi, I'm Zachary Dombrowk, and I hope you're all prepared for today's episode of Crash Course LMU Biology 111, because in today's session, I will be talking about mud dragons. Wait, sorry, that's not what they look like. I wish they did, because that'd be awesome. Anyway, this is what mud dragons, or Chinorhyncha, actually look like. A bit disappointing, right? Well, not too disappointing, otherwise we would be talking about Porifera, which literally stay in the same place throughout their whole life cycle. So, now that we have established that they are more interesting than sea sponges, what are Chinorhyncha? Since they were first discovered along the northern coast of France in 1841, there are now over 150 known species that have been discovered and placed in this particular phylum. In addition, with current research, they can be categorized into 2 classes, 3 orders, and 11 families. Looking at the etymology, Chinorhyncha comes from the Greek word kinema, meaning motion, and rhynchus, meaning snout. So they are literally animals with a movable snout. They are a yellowish-brown color similar to the slightly bruised banana, and are typically less than 1 milliliter in length, which is slightly larger than a speck of pollen and about the same size as a frog's egg. Chinorhyncha are segmented, limbless marine animals. They are covered in spines, which are movable extensions of the body wall that grip onto sediment and pull the organism along as it extends and retracts its head. They are all found around the world, generally in sediments and sometimes associated with algae, sponges, or other invertebrates. They can be found in oxygen-rich environments such as beaches, near the tides, or in water depths up to 5,000 meters deep. Looking at Chinorhyncha and their feeding habits, we can classify them as deposit feeders. And this means they are aquatic animals that feed on small specks of organic matter that sink in a body of water, and they are also considered to be planktivores as well as detritivores. Chinorhyncha collect algae on their head scallops or spines to be ingested later, or they can directly suck algae into the pharynx to ingest immediately. Meaning, these animals are literally walking clumps of mud. Yet they must find this somewhat attractive due to the fact that Chinorhyncha can be found as either male or female and visually have no distinct differences. Chinorhyncha are sexually reproducing organisms, and during mating, a male and female position themselves so their ventral, posterior ends face each other with the mucosal mass surrounding their posterior end. Both male and females have paired gonads and short noducts. Males have 2 or 3 hollow, often rigid spicules associated with their gonopores. Females have both germ cells and nutritive cells in their gonads and oviducts with seminal receptacles in their gonopores. These gonopores often open between the 12th and 13th zonites. Fertilized Chinorhyncha eggs are deposited into egg cases. Once juvenile stages are reached, the eggs hatch and the Chinorhyncha emerge with 11 of their 13 segments. The final 2 segments are added through a series of 6 molts as they reach adulthood. Chinorhyncha are protostomes, and there's not much known about their lifespan. What value does this phylum have to humans? Well, actually, there's no known relationship between them, other than that they're placed in the marine food chain and they're used in scientific research. Now that we have learned what Chinorhyncha are and what they look like, we need to talk about how they are related to other phyla. Today, we will discuss the relationships in 3 different ways: through their COI gene, through physical observable characteristics, and through genetic sequence information. We can show how the phyla are related to each other using phylogenetic trees. The first tree, based on the COI gene, to the left, shows the Chinorhyncha are more complex than Porifera and Cnidaria, but are less complex than the other 4 phyla, including chordates, which is us. The second tree, based on physical characteristics, to the right, shows Chinorhyncha is the most complex out of all the phyla, including the added phyla Mollusca, which doesn't possess the COI gene. Finally, the third tree, based on genetic sequence information, which is on the screen, shows the Kynorhyncha are located around the same places they were on the first tree. Today we learned about characteristics of Kynorhyncha, their developmental reproduction and movement patterns, their evolutionary history based on phylogeny, and finally their value to humans. Thank you for watching our Kynorhyncha episode of Crash Course Biology 111. We hope that you learned something. Thanks also to everyone who helped put this episode together and who helped make it possible. Stay curious, my friends.